As much as I wanted to be on camera more consistently, unfortunately, the time that I have allotted to me to do so makes it so that it would take way longer to get that video edited and out to you guys. So, for the time being, we are getting podcast style Soul, right? But I really just needed to talk for a second about Xenoverse 3 being revealed, right? Because we've been waiting for well over a decade for this game in particular to finally be announced to us, right? I mean, not over a decade per se, because we were obviously spending the first like 4 years with Xenoverse 2, and then they just kept dropping content and DLC, and we were like, I mean, we're not complaining, you know. Xenoverse 2 is easily like one of the best Dragon Ball games out there. It's so much fun. It's so like diverse with all the things you could do. Well, you could do just rage, you could do story, you could do missions, whether it's PvP or PvE. You could do so many different things. The customization aspects of it, everything about Xenoverse 2, it just has so much to offer. It became like this massive, it's the closest we've had to like a big Dragon Ball MMO, to the vision that, you know, we envisioned when we were younger, right? Xenoverse 2 is extremely special and extremely important. And, you know, as much as we love it, after a couple of years, we were like, okay, surely, like, Xenoverse 3 has to be around the corner, right? Like, it's time for us to be operating with a new engine, a new kind of story, a new just everything. We need a bit of an overhaul on a lot of things, especially because just graphically, you know, even with the PS5 update, it's a little outdated, right? Regardless, that's just to say, I appreciate Xenoverse 2, but we have been waiting on Xenoverse 3 for a very long time, right? So now, here we are. It's the big 26. It is April. We just had our most recent Power Hour for Dragon Ball, and they revealed a lot of things, including the final DLC for Xenoverse 2, but most importantly, well, also a major update for Sparking Zero, but we'll talk about that in a different video. But obviously, Xenoverse 3. Now, it's one of those situations in which we knew, like a lot of us just knew frame one, that John 1000 was a stand-in for the custom character, right? It was pretty obvious from the get-go, because of the way he was like mimicking just all of those different fighters throughout history and stuff like that. Like, we saw direct references and we were like, okay, like either he's an android or he's our custom character stand-in. We didn't know. We had pretty much nothing to work with for those couple of months, right? Only to find out, yeah, we were completely right. He was our OC stand-in, and that's just how it is. But there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. Everybody is more than okay with the fact that John 1000. It's so sad that it's not John 1000 anymore. It's just us 1000. You know what I'm saying? But it's just kind of funny. But I'm okay with that, right? But I do have a couple of hopes and wishes here. Obviously, I would like to get more in depth later about a lot of this stuff, considering the fact that it's been a good amount of time now since I played Xenoverse 2, to the point where I am kind of dated on my knowledge in regards to like all of the events and raids and stuff like that that they've introduced, all of the major updates that might have had some major game-changing like changes to the game in of itself. But I do have some very general hopes and wishes that I would like to converse about, right? Because, you know, overall, the game in of itself is looking I mean, we haven't seen the gameplay yet. I really do hope that mechanically it is a bit faster. I guess that's my first hope, right? But again, it's hard to tell based on the little bit that we've seen. I think that last little bit there, that last quarter of it was in-game, but it's hard to tell. The way they were so bouncy, that was kind of weird for Dragon Ball, right? Am I crazy to think that the animation style was just a little weirdly bouncy? Anyway, as far as my hopes and wishes, right? I guess, yeah, first things first, this is one of the things that I mentioned on my group channel, was that I really wanted to see a more fluid fighting style, a lot more fluid animation for when we're fighting, so that it feels a lot quicker. It feels more, you know, hits feel more devastating, but we're moving. Like, I wanted to feel to the equivalent of like, not exactly sparking or anything like that, but maybe somewhere in between Kakarot, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and sparking, to where we have that speed, we have that, you know, level of quickness that has it so that we are comfortably like going back and forth, zipping and zapping, fighting back to back, clashing and stuff like that. I just want like a little in between of those mechanics, because that is incredibly important to me, that we do, we move just a little bit faster, and, we don't kind of, because I feel like, I don't know, maybe it was just a me thing. I feel like in Xenoverse 2, whenever I would start a new game, maybe it's because I was just consistently fighting NPCs all the time, so maybe this is just a me problem, but I feel like I was pretty stagnant, in which I would always end up relying on very, like, samey, repetitive combos to, get the kills out. You know what I'm saying? And obviously there was probably like a meta for things, you know what I'm saying? I never looked too heavily into the meta or anything like that, because, I wasn't participating that heavily in the PvP stuff. But as far as like PvE, I always found my own little like meta essentially to get used to. And I kind of want to, if we can avoid that, maybe if we could create a situation that develops more metas consistently, like just moves that are more fun to mix and match, things that, there's just endless combinations that make it so that you can freely customize and not have to feel bad sticking with one thing that you like, as opposed to getting rid of it just so you could stick with a meta, just so that you could keep up. Does that make sense, or am I just talking nonsense? Anyway, I want more speed in the fighting, right? But again, it's been a while, so maybe it's not as clunky as I'm remembering, but I would really like to see a little bit more fluidity in the combat, right? Another thing, this is actually another thing that was kind of mentioned in the group video, but I'm just gonna kind of run through it quickly here. I do want to see some more like clashes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love the fact that, in sparking and stuff like that, I think in Kakarot you can clash too, but it's kind of rare. But I think, beam clashes and general hand-to-hand clashes are kind of a critical aspect to Dragon Ball overall, because that's just been a thing since like the first Budokai tournament, you know what I'm saying? They've always been doing that kind of thing. So I would really like to see that implemented in some way, shape, or form, you know what I'm saying? If there is opportunities to, just make it a little bit more cinematic for us in a way, or maybe if, even if it is kind of like a quick time situation in which we do got to do a little bit of button mashing and things like that, I would love to see some actual clashes this time around. I would love to see an evolution on that. From the first two games, because we never really had real clashes for whatever reason, and that was a little disappointing. But especially if we're probably going to be digging crazy into the PvP stuff, I want to see some clashes, brother. I want to see some crazy clips, you know what I'm saying? Oh my god, when this game drops, bro, my feed is going to be destroyed for a week with all the stuff that's going to be happening. And one of those things that I really want to see consistently is the crazy, friends fighting each other online, and we get the craziest beam clashes, and we are yelling like we are within the universe of Dragon Ball ourselves, you know what I'm saying? I want that energy, and the best way to do that is to have that mechanic implemented. Don't know why it wasn't there for the first two games, but this is the time to do it. You've had 12 years to cook. I want to see what y'all got, you know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at with that. Moving on, I want to see better transformation options for other races, right? Obviously, Saiyans are the be-all, like, those are the go-to for everybody. Those are like the baseline, like, yeah, like, obviously, it kind of feels crazy to say the most important race. I know that's crazy to say, but obviously within the Dragon Ball universe, there are so many different races, especially ones that haven't even been tapped into, because there's it would be really neat to see somebody maybe want to try out the challenge of playing as an android or something like that. The whole point of having like an OC is to kind of develop your own history for yourself, just to have your own little character, have their own little story to them, their own little history. That's the whole fun of everything, right? So I would love to see, first of all, just more race options. Android could be really, really fun. That could be like a really cool challenge situation if you really want to create an android. That could be really, really busted, and how they absorb energy and how they you like pretty much send it back, you know what I'm saying? I would love to see that situation. I would love to see more animal races, because animals are like animal people are a thing in the Dragon Ball universe that just aren't utilized anymore. They're just really not talked about as much for whatever reason. Like, the moment we got to like aliens in Z, like, I feel like we didn't do that, right? I don't know. I just feel like it would be really, really cool to see more of that within the realm of Xenoverse, right? But then on top of that, I want to see more like options and transformations for all these races. Now, you can't sit there and tell me that like race transformations aren't or can't be a thing for more than just the Saiyans, when there have been mods out for so many different unique transformations for all of these races for years already, like, and still developing. People are probably still developing mods to this day for other races to have like crazier transformations available to them, right? And I feel like this is the time to take the opportunity to do something like that, to make it so that, you know, Saiyan isn't like just overall the best option, just so that you could have more transformation options to get stronger. You know what I'm saying? There should be options to make it so that other races could be able to keep up with the Saiyans, or maybe, you know, their more natural abilities or other things should be things that could be upgraded and things like that, so that they could keep up with Saiyans. Because obviously, you know, just 9 times out of 10, like, if you really just want to keep up with the meta, or just like, you know, play the game and just have a, you know, a more decent time without too much trouble on your hands, Saiyan is always the go-to pick. I guess it's not necessarily true. You could pick other races and still have a perfectly fine time. I played as every race except like Namekian, which I did make a Namekian, but I just didn't get very far with him, I think. It's been a long time. I'd have to go back, but like, you know, the Majin race is fire, but it definitely needs a little bit more diversity with, you know, how it utilizes like transformations and stuff like that. But it is still very fun. Humans definitely deserve a little bit more of a leeway type situation. I think we could definitely get a little bit more creative with that. The Namekians, definitely now, you know, the way Orange Piccolo has been introduced, you know, I think it's about time that we delve a little bit more into that aspect and see what we could get out of that, you know what I'm saying? Maybe some other fusions situations, I don't know. What else am I missing? The Frieza race, definitely, like, we need to take advantage of, you know, more like the bigger transformations, like coolers, which was a crazy thing that just never happened. But like, you know, because the thing about Frieza race is that the base of that race is final form, and that's kind of ridiculous, right? that's kind of like, it's cool, you know what I'm saying? But because of that, it doesn't offer anything, you know what I'm saying? Especially because we've seen Frieza transform multiple times. We've seen Cooler transform. We should have some more options, I think, in that regard as well. So, yeah, I think, you know, more transformation. And, like, that's the thing. This is the only, like, I feel like this is one of the few situations in which I feel like I'm asking for more transformations. I can't, it's so funny. I'm thinking about other games where I would want to see something like that. No, this is the only one where I'm just like, yeah, no, we need to see more here. You know what I'm saying? Not in terms of Dragon Ball. Like, I'm talking, like, you know, I'm not talking about Bleach. I'm not talking about Naruto, whatever. I'm in my own head. I'm just kind of rambling. Sorry, that was a tangent. Regardless, I want to see more transformations available for other races as well. Something that could help keep up with Saiyans and stuff like that. Obviously, first run through, most of us are probably picking Saiyan, but I definitely want to have some kickback. You know what I'm saying? I want to have like like, maybe it wouldn't be crazy to pick Frieza Racer or Namekian in my first run through. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but I would just like to have the diversity there, if that's not too crazy. Next, I want to have more combat style options, right? One of the things that was kind of frustrating in regards to Xenoverse 1 and 2 was the fact that, you know, you could have all these different teachers, you could learn all of their different moves and things like that. You could get a lot out of them just from training with them. But the thing that really upset me was the fact that you could get the coolest teacher, but you wouldn't be able to obtain their fighting style. And that was something that was extremely important to me, right? Because I think back to, I think it was Ultimate Tenkaichi is what I'm thinking of, where you could like adopt fighting styles from other characters. Like, you could learn their fighting styles and your character would fight just like them. What sucks about Ultimate Tenkaichi was that was a rock paper scissors based combat system, and because of that, you know, it didn't really feel like it was fully, the combat overall was just fully underutilized. So like a situation here in which you could adopt fighting styles from other characters, and based on that is where you could develop, you know, once that's implemented, you could develop a meta, like your own unique metas and stuff like that. Or just generally speaking, you could, you know, just develop your character in a more unique fashion. You know what I'm saying? If I want to have my character, because the whole thing is that, you know, we're stealing all of these different moves and abilities from other characters throughout Dragon Ball history anyway. We may as well have, you know, unique fighting styles to choose from. You know what I'm saying? If we go through the work to learn, you know, all of Gogeta's moves and stuff like that, we should be able to fight like him. If I go through all the effort to learn Perfect Cell's moves, I would like to fight like him too. You know what I'm saying? I would want to have his charge up. I would want to have his stance. I would just, you know, if we're going to be yanking from everybody, we may as well go all the way and have the option to have combat styles too, right? Is that a crazy thing? Is that something that a lot of people are asking for? As far as I remember in Xenoverse, that just wasn't really a thing, and that kind of like, you know, it was a little unfortunate that we didn't have something like that. So I would really, really like to see something of that caliber available to us for, you know, as a reward, as something for going through all of the training and combat with these teachers, with these Dragon Ball characters. All right. So that's where I'm at. Obviously, some fighting styles wouldn't be applicable to certain races depending on how they fight. Obviously, you know, a human isn't fighting like a Namekian or a Majin, but they could fight, you know, more like, you know, the other Saiyans. They could fight, I mean, like the androids or something. No, not like the androids, but you get what I'm getting at, right? Also, I just realized an android race could be really cool for customizing like hand weapons and stuff like that. That could go crazy. Oh my god, there's so much you could do with an android race. But regardless, we'll talk more about that later. But for now, I really want to see more combat options available to, or combat style options available to us. Next, I would really love to see a more in-depth situation for the customization, right? They did good in Xenoverse 2. I think they did a pretty good job, generally speaking, but even then it did still feel generally limited in how much you could customize the, like, each individual piece of the armor that you were wearing. I would definitely like a, oh my god, what is that mechanic? This is something that I feel is important in every single game that has any form of customization options. I want to see that mechanic. If anybody knows what it is, tell me in the comments below. But I want to see that mechanic in which when you put on armor, you put on a certain set, like certain sets of clothing, you could kind of hide that and actually still wear what you want to wear, right? For example, if I need to put on the goofiest outfit just to have some good stats for my character, like you would in Xenoverse 1 and 2, which obviously you could still have like a really good looking outfit and also have good stats come out of them, true enough, but there were a lot of the times where there were just better options for, you know, stats and things like that. And you would just kind of have to sacrifice the fit that you wanted to wear and just kind of customize around the better, you know, the better fitting or the better stat boosting outfits, right? I want to be able to have the option to make those, you know, those full outfits, those stat boosting outfits, while also actually just going out of my way to choose what I actually want to wear on the outside, right? So what is seen isn't necessarily what I'm actually wearing for the stat boosts. Is that crazy? Is that a thing that was in Xenoverse? Maybe I'm misremembering. I'm sorry if I am. It's been, like I said, it's been a good minute since I've really sat down with Xenoverse 2, but I do have like hundreds of hours in it. It's just been, it's been a long while, dude. It's been a long time. But, you know, I would definitely love to see an option like that, because again, I think this is something that's important in every game, right? For example, in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, I'm a big fan. Like, the Buster Sword is one of my favorite weapons of all time. I despise having to switch off of the Buster Sword because I need a sword with better stats and gear options. I want to be able to see the Buster Sword while I'm fighting, while also having the other weapon equipped. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Am I crazy for that? That's where I'm at with that, okay? So, bear with me on that. But I would really like to see that cosmetic, there's a word for it that I'm missing, but I want to see that cosmetic, not mirror. I want to have that cosmetic option is all I'm saying. So, that's where I'm at with that. And then the last major thing, something we'll probably talk more in depth about. This is kind of just my, like, little initial reaction and just, like, you know, like off rip hopes and wishes. But we could get more in depth if that's something anybody's interested in talking about. But obviously, I would want a more unique story, which this does seem to be leading into something like that, which I'm super happy about, right? Because in the first two games, you were pretty much already hired as a time controller. In this one, it seems like we're starting a little bit more fresh, in getting scouted by Bulma herself, maybe. But I would love a more unique story that isn't just like, okay, hey, we need your help, go fight Raditz, except this time he turned Super Saiyan frame 1. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need more diverse options to be able to, you know, handle, you know, a story here. We could definitely get a little bit more unique. You know, we could have little time slips where unique enemies are falling through into whatever city we're in. I don't know what the name of the city is. Sorry, I'm thinking of Sparking, but you know, just a little time slip where a couple of, you know, for our first fight, maybe a couple of Cybermen slip through, and obviously all the time patrollers that are, you know, would be in the area are off doing something else, so they call upon you because they see the potential in you or something like that to handle that, and then it could lead to other time slip situations, or I don't know. I just feel like they could get crazy with a story this time around, and I have a good feeling that they'll cook, right? But I don't know. One of the biggest problems with like anime games in general is the fact that we just kind of spend a good majority of the time revisiting a story that we already good and well know. And when it comes to Dragon Ball, whether it be Ball Z, whatever, we know these stories like the back of our hands at this point, right? Like I know I could tell you bar for bar everything about Z to GT to Super to whatever, even Dragon Ball, because I did watch through that recently too. We need a more unique story that isn't just revisiting the Dragon Ball timeline, right? We want more original enemies, we want more original scenarios, we want more unique situations that isn't just, hey, self-insert into Dragon Ball's story. You know, we already did it twice, and we have played through those games numerous times at this point, so we need to do something a little different. We need to do something a little different, and that's all I'm saying. Super Saiyan, if we really want to get crazy with that. But regardless, that is where I'm at in regards to Xenoverse 3 so far. Overall, I'm super excited for the concept of Xenoverse 3. That's so much so, like, right now I'm playing through Pragmata. Once I have finished Pragmata, I kind of want to do maybe like a little stream series. Maybe every night I'll play a couple hours of Xenoverse 1, and then I'll eventually swap over to Xenoverse 2 and pretty much just spend a lot of time catching up on all the stuff that I never got to do. There's so many story events and DLC and stuff that I never got the chance to delve into, and I would really like the time to do so, right? So, you know, if you want to keep up with that journey, I'm probably going to be, I'll probably pitch something for our group channel, Gaming is Culture, where we're going to be talking about a lot of like just video game related stuff. Right now we're focusing very heavily on Dragon Ball. We already were. And we're probably going to do a lot of, you know, Xenoverse 3 related stuff over there as well. But primarily, we're probably going to be streaming that over here. So we'll get there when we get there. But for now, I think I've said my piece. I'm passing the mic over to you, and I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree that Xenoverse 3 is looking good? We're really excited for it. Can't wait to see what it has to offer. You think that everything that I've mentioned here could be really cool as an addition to Xenoverse 3, and that we have a little bit to look forward to in that regard? Or are you on the opposing side? You don't really feel it like that. Your Xenoverse 3 has nothing you need because you've spent so long with Xenoverse 2 that you're pretty much done with this series, which I highly doubt. Tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I'm always going to be down there with you guys. But with that being said, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!